And when you're listening to a teacher talk about the truth, you have to listen with, you have to be a listening that has intention, and you have to be a listening that has determination. Why? Because when you're listening to the teachings of the truth, you have to listen to the teachings in a way where you are bringing those teachings in, recognizing, because if you hear the teachings and you allow yourself to recognize the awareness that you are hearing the teaching, then the way you hear the teaching is it resonates with you. In other words, when you hear what's being said, you recognize it. It's not just something you're hearing, it's something that if you're hearing it with yourself, if you're hearing it with the ears of awareness, it's a recognition. That's one of the reasons when you listen to a teacher like David talk, I do it not as much as he does, but if you listen to a teacher like David talk, he laughs at his own words, right? Because he's recognizing what he's saying is true. That's what he's laughing about, right? And it is irreverent when a teacher is teaching the truth and they speak the truth. It's irreverent. He will tell you you're stupid and then laugh, right? Because he's laughing because he's stupid too, because he has a mind too that's as stupid as your mind is. And he knows that when he identifies with that mind and identifies with that voice and identifies with those thoughts, identifies with those interpretations, identifies with those feelings, that things don't go well. He knows that, right? So he can talk about stupid because he's been stupid. He knows about stupidity. Okay? Anybody who's awake knows about stupidity because they remember it. Thank God they remember it instead of it's still the case, right? So it's very important when you're listening to a teacher that's teaching the truth, it's very important to take it in. And if you don't understand it, it's even more important to take in what you don't understand so you can be with it, right? So you can continue to look at it and be with it with the intention of seeing what it's saying, of the intention of getting it, the intention of grokking it, the intention of understanding what's being pointed to. And you should take the opportunity very seriously. You know, that's why even when it comes to this class, you know, the mind will say, well, you know, I go to the class, we practice meditation, you know, the teacher gives a talk, and you know, the talk is, you know, generally talking about the same thing, pretty much. I mean, if you're paying attention, the talk only involves a limited number of points, a limited number of pointings, right? And if you've been around for a while, it's not new. So your mind will say, well, why go to the class? Why go to the class? I can listen to the talks on YouTube, and the talks are repetitious, so why go to the class? That's the way the mind is, right? But the answer to the question, why go to the class, is because during this class, you are putting yourself in the space of aliveness. You're putting yourself in the space of the truth. You're exposing yourself to the truth. You're getting a transmission. You're getting a transmission. And by your coming to this class, if you come to this class on a regular basis, you're expressing your awareness of the truth. That's what you're doing. You're expressing your awareness of the truth, and you're recognizing that wherever the truth is being spoken, that's a valuable place to be. Right? So I go through what it takes to be there. I go through the traffic or whatever I got to do to get myself there, right? Because my being there is an expression of my commitment to the truth instead of my mind. That's what you're doing. You're exercising freedom, you know, by coming to this class. You're exercising freedom. It's not like going to just anywhere. It's not the same as just going to just anywhere. This is not just anywhere. This is a place that's sacred. Where the truth is spoken is a sacred place, right? And so for you to get yourself to where the truth is spoken on a regular basis is an example of your determination to experience and realize that truth. That's what it is, you know? And if you don't, and if you could be there, but you're not there because you're lazy, or you're not there because it's easier not to be there, or it's more convenient not to be there, and you don't want to be bothered by not being there, then you're in a state of mind. And if that state of mind is a state that you're willing to be in, and you're willing to live your life in that state of mind, you're willing to suffer. That's what you're willing to do. You're willing to continue to identify yourself with something that will never be happy. The mental state that's occurring in your mind is not designed for well-being or happiness. It's not designed for that. You know, and one of the things that's important to understand is that it's not necessary for you to be upset. It's not necessary for you to be uncomfortable. It's not necessary for you to suffer. It's possible for you to cultivate a beautiful mind. It's possible to cultivate a beautiful mind. What does that mean? The first thing it means is having compassion for yourself. The first thing it means is having compassion for the fact that you don't have a beautiful mind. You have the mind that you inherited from the people that didn't have a beautiful mind, that didn't know they didn't have a beautiful mind, and they passed it on to you. So that's what you got, right? But the mind is a possibility. The mind is a possibility. That state of mind, that condition that you inherited, that state of mind that you inherited is something you can either just identify with and consider it to be true, consider your thoughts to be true, consider the state of mind and the conditioning that you have inherited to be reality and consider it to be the truth. Or you can recognize there's a possibility that's a real possibility for me to experience well-being regardless of the circumstances in my life. You should take that statement and deal with it, you know, because what the teachings are saying is that it's possible for you to be consistently happy. It's possible for you to be consistently in a state of well-being, no matter what's happening. Because what's happening is only happening in your mind. It's not happening anywhere else. And so that's what you have to deal with. All you have to deal with in order to transform your life is your mind, not the world. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to change the world. All you have to do is change your mind, right? All you have to do is pay attention to the processing that's going on in the mental state. Recognize, right? Recognize that it's inconsistent with the truth. It's inconsistent with what you actually are. It's inconsistent with the way it actually is. And because that's the case, you're not going to follow it. You're not going to follow it. So by being aware of it, so the first step is to be aware of the voice in your head, be aware of the material that's playing in the mind, be aware of the reactions, be aware of the emotions, and recognize that these thoughts and these feelings, a lot of the time, even most of the time, are not consistent with the possibility of being happy, not consistent with the possibility of well-being. So what do? What you do is you stop being involved. You stop being involved with the mind. You stop participating with that. You stop identifying with that. You turn away from that. It's a major discovery if you discover that it's possible for you to determine what you think about or whether you're thinking. That's a major discovery. If you discover that it's possible for you, to not think, to not put attention on the activity of the mind when it's producing negativity and producing suffering. It's possible for you not to involve yourself or engage yourself with that. One of the informal practice that we talk about here is practice resting as awareness for brief moments at a time. And the teacher that talks about that the most, she says, you can do that at any time. This is not like formal meditation. You can practice doing that at any time. In other words, what she's saying is no matter what's happening in your mind, you can choose to allow your attention to go to awareness. No matter what's happening in your mind, you can choose to allow your attention to go to awareness and rest in that awareness. And in that awareness, nothing is happening. Nothing is happening. Complete relaxation, complete peace, complete satisfaction, complete state of well-being. Why? Because instead of being in your mind, you're experiencing being awareness. And that's how awareness is. That's just how awareness is. Yeah. So you got a bad habit, you know. People have a bad habit of being attracted to bullshit. People have a bad habit of being attracted to negativity. People have a bad habit of being attracted to what's wrong, right? And so because you're attracted to that, right, because it's familiar, you're attracted to that because it's familiar, and you're attracted to that because you think that you think the voice in your head is you thinking. You're attracted to that because you think the voice in your head is you thinking, right? Oh, I'm not being negative. It's negative. I'm just thinking about how negative it is. You see? I'm not being negative. I'm just feeling negative because it's so negative, right? This is not true. You're being negative because you're allowing what's occurring in your mind to be the truth. And it's not. You know, you're suffering because you're watching a bad movie and you don't know you don't have to stay in the theater. Right? I mean, if you were going to see a movie and you sat down in a chair in a movie theater and the movie started playing and it was all terrible shit, all uncomfortable stuff to watch, right? All stuff that was making you uncomfortable, all stuff that was making you experience negative emotions and fear and all that. How long are you going to stay in that movie theater? Even if you know it's a movie, right? I mean, if people go to watch movies so they can experience terrible things and they can tell themselves it's not really happening, so I can consider this entertainment. Right? People like to watch a lot of death. We want to see death. We want to see gore, right? Just like the hurricane. Everybody couldn't wait to get on the TVs this morning so we can look at it. We can look at how bad it is, right? This is a form of entertainment. You know, we don't like to admit it, but it's a form of entertainment, right? So if you were sitting in a movie theater, and even though it was a form of entertainment, right? If you think about the horror movies that you would go to see, or the murder mysteries, or all the terrible things that people go to the movies to watch, if you were going to sit in the movies and watch that, and after the first movie, another one came on, and it was just more of the same stuff, right? And after that movie, another, would you stay in that theater? Well, you're staying, but you are. But you are. Yeah, because all I did was talk about it as if it's a separate situation from the one you're in, but it's not. You're in that theater. If you're paying attention to what's going on in your mind all day long, you're in a movie theater that plays a lot of negative pictures. You're in a movie theater that plays horror movies all day long, right? So if it was a real theater, you'd leave, right? Well, it is a real theater, but it's not so obvious that it's a real theater because it's in your head. It's in the mind, right? So what the teachings are about is to realize you don't have to stay in the theater. You don't have to stay related to and involved with and identified with material that's making you crazy. You don't have to continue to do that. It's possible not to do that, right? But it's such a habitual thing that when you do that, it's such a habit. You know what I mean? You don't even realize you're doing it when you do it because it's such a habit, right? It's like picking your nose, right? So it's something that if you practice not doing it, if you practice being aware of what's happening and you realize that you are behaving in a way that could only be considered stupidity, if you continue to do something that doesn't work, that's hurting you, and you don't stop to stop doing it, you're stupid. That's stupidity, right?
Doing something and expect a different result.
Well, it's worse than that because you don't even really expect it to change, right? You don't expect it to change. You just expect that you'll take more medication. It's not going to change, but I'll just tranquilize myself in relationship to it so it doesn't feel so bad, right? So these are the options that people have. People don't think that there is anything available other than putting up with it, right? Putting up with it or trying to change it, struggling with it, coping with it, planning a vacation from it, right? Going to therapy about it, going to therapy about it to get some help, learning how to be better at coping with how terrible your life is. That's what people want, to go to therapy. Go to therapy. Help me deal with how terrible my life is. Help me deal with how my partner's driving me crazy. Help me deal with how my job is driving me crazy. Help me deal with how my body's driving me crazy, right? Help me deal with it. How are you going to help me deal with it? So this is the way out. This is the way out of the hell realm, right? Is to realize, first of all, that you're in a hell realm. You're in a realm that cannot offer you well-being. It cannot offer you being happy. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you will start to move in the direction of the possibility. And realize that this process of practicing being awake, this process of seeing things the way they really are, is going to take something. It's going to mean that you're going to have to commit yourself to paying attention to what's going on in this mental state. And you're going to have to commit yourself to practicing relaxing the physical body and calming the mind, relaxing the nervous system, because it's upset. Most people's life are a continuous upset. Continuous upset. You wake up in the morning, and if you're not as anxious as you were last night, that's good. If you start out with minimal anxiety, and then by lunch it's worked up to medium anxiety, by 3 o'clock it's maximum anxiety, and then you head to happy hour. That's the way it goes for people, It's like, I suffer, and then I seek relief for my suffering. I suffer, and I seek relief for my suffering. I go to my psychologist, go to my psychotherapist for psychological and emotional relief. I go to my doctor for physical relief, and I go to my pharmacist for mental and psychological tranquilization process. And if I want to have a good time, I have to get some hemp gummies. See, commercially speaking, we have a cornucopia of possibilities. Commercially speaking, we have all kinds of things that we can choose to use, right? To deaden ourselves, to deaden ourselves so we don't feel it. We don't feel the pain of life. We don't feel the pain of life. And the reality of it is we are completely involved with generating the pain of life. Completely involved. The source of life is not the world occurring to you. The source of your suffering and the source of your experience is not the world occurring to you. It's your involvement with your own mind. That's the source of your suffering. The involvement with this voice in your head, the involvement with the interpretations that are getting made up here all the time, about everything all the time, the judgments and evaluations. You can't go anywhere or do anything without judging it, can you? How was the game last night? Oh, they lost? Oh, I'm sorry. We get involved with things with expectations, we hope it's going to work out, right? And then when it doesn't work out, we were all excited about watching the game, And then when it goes the wrong way, it's like a disappointment, right? Especially in this area, they say the Phillies fans are really nasty. If their own team's losing, they turn on them. That's because the fans are sitting there. They came to have a good time, and you ruined it. The team ruined my time. I came here to celebrate victory, and they lost in a terrible way. They made us look like fools. They're responsible for how I feel about this, right?
Real fan.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Right? And it's not when people go to baseball games, that's not just how they're being at the baseball game. That's how they're being with their life, right? If they go to work one day and at the end of the day a lot of things happen that they didn't want to happen, right? They're really pissed off at the job. They're really pissed off at all those people that did that to me today, right? If that's how you're living your life, that's a very sick existence. You know, that's the victim. That's the victim game. You know, I'm the victim. You're victimizing me. I have to do something about that. I have to stop that. I have to get a new team. So you have, you know, if you just hear what I'm saying enough to realize there's a choice, right? If you just hear what I'm saying enough to realize that a choice is possible, you can choose not to live like that. You can choose not to be in your head and suffer the consequences. You can choose to understand that your awareness is always free. Your awareness is enjoying the show all the time. It doesn't matter what the show is. Because your awareness understands the truth. Your awareness knows that I'm so goddamn happy to be here, I don't care what the show is. I'm happy to be here because I can experience my life in a way where the life that I'm experiencing is not determining my well-being. It's not determining whether I'm happy or not. It's just what's happening. It's just what's happening. And if you are willing to really digest the truth, then what you're willing to do is recognize that there's nothing you can do about it. You know, David said that. He says this, but he doesn't digress into it, because then people get really crazy when you start talking about everything that's predetermined. The truth is, there's nothing you can do about what happens, right? Because when now watch. You don't even have to get into predetermination. There's nothing you can do about what happens, because by the time you are aware of it, it's already done. That's always true. It's always true. When you have an experience of something, your experience of it comes after it. Your experience of it happens after it happened. And that's always true, which means there's nothing you can ever do about what happens. Never. There's nothing you can ever do about what happens, right? Except, right, experience it as awareness. And when you experience it as awareness, there's no sting. When you experience that awareness, it has no effect on you, because you're experiencing it from the reality of what you are, instead of experiencing it from the personality that is the character that you thought you were before you woke up and realized that's not real. See, that's the whole thing. You can have, which world do you want to live in? You want to live in that world, or do you want to live in the world where you can experience being relaxed, happy, and always excited, and enjoying the miracle of existence? Then you go to the baseball game. Yeah, then you go to the baseball game, and no matter what happens in the baseball game, it's like, wow, this is so interesting. It's not something that, you know, I'm going to win or lose. It's exciting. It's exciting because the possibility of losing makes it exciting. You know, are you aware of it that way, or are you totally in on winning, and if you don't win, you're disappointed and upset? That's stupid. That's a stupid. So the fans are stupid. Stupidity is prevalent. Stupidity is the norm. That's why I say that the mental condition, the neurotic condition that people are living in, is the norm. They don't see anything wrong with being neurotic. That's the norm, right? Because everybody's like that. Everybody sees it the way you're talking about, right? Yeah, that doesn't make it true. It just makes it stupid. I mean, you know, these teachings and practices would be truly be insanity if they weren't true, but they're true. You can actually test it out. See if a situation arises in your life where you experience being angry or annoyed, and in the middle of experiencing that, see if you can notice that the voice in your head is angry and there's emotions that are playing there. You can turn your attention away from that to something else in your environment and pay attention to that, or you could just turn your attention inward to being the awareness that's aware of that, and experience the freedom of being the awareness and the excitement of being alive instead of that. And if you succeed in doing that, then what I'm saying here, that you've experienced the proof of it for yourself.